Hi, this is David at MASH IT, and today we're going to be reviewing Dell's new G15 Ryzen Edition gaming laptop. This is Dell's mid-range of gaming laptops, so you don't get all the bells and whistles of the Alienware top-end range, but as you can see just by looking at this machine, they've started to draw from the Alienware Legend design. Now this laptop costs about £1,200 in the UK, and for that you're going to get the new AMD Ryzen 7 5800H and the RTX 3060 graphics. Now there are other configurations available, but unfortunately 3060 is the highest graphics card that you can put in this G15 range, well at the moment anyway. So let's take a quick look around this laptop. So picking it up, you can see it's got a very unusual colour. It looks almost like a granite effect, so it looks a little bit like the Lunar Light Alienware, but with these little flecks in there. Now the good thing about that is it doesn't show any fingerprints, and also I think it will hold up quite well to marks, which would be quite nice with this model. It also looks nice because it's not your usual boring black or grey, which is it's nice to see something a bit different. Now it is a plastic chassis, but it's a solid plastic. It feels very solid in your hand. And if you look at the top, so you got the Dell logo here, and then sort of a bit of a ribbed effect on the top cover, which feels quite nice, makes it easy to grab the laptop. And also if you look at the rear end here, this is where they borrowed from the Alienware sort of Legend design, this rear hinge system. Now the G15 being the mid-range, you don't get all the sort of the flashy LED lights all over it. It's very muted. It is just this plastic build. But I say it does look great. Okay, so I just want to quickly weigh this laptop. So it's coming in at 2.56 kilograms, which is also £5 and 10 ounces. And the 240 watt power adapter is 906 grams, or £1 and 16 ounces. Now moving on to the ports on the left hand side, you see we've got a bit of venting there. We've got a folding Ethernet jack, and we've got a headset combo port. And then lastly, we've got a little hard drive LED light. We flip it round to the right hand side of the laptop. You see two USB ports. We've also got some more venting and just a little G logo over on the back there just to show you that it's the G series. We've moved the laptop around to the rear. We've got a USB-C port, which is also display port. Now I've also tested it. Unfortunately, there's no power delivery on that port. It's a bit of a shame, but at least you can dock it into a monitor. We've got a third USB port on the rear, and we've also got an HDMI 2.1 port. And then finally, on the far side, we've got the power port. Flipping it onto the bottom, again, all plastic, still feels very solid. It's quite a nice amount of venting at the bottom there to like bring in air into the laptop. Right then, let's open her up and take a look inside. Now Dell have got this laptop set that when you open up the laptop, it will automatically boot, which is quite a nice feature they've done for the last couple of generations. But that can be turned off in BIOS if you don't like it. Now the palm rest has the same sort of granite sort of finish, plastic, as per the rest of the laptop, but it's got quite a solid feel to it. A pretty nasty sticker on the left-hand side, which you're going to want to peel off, and usually some sort of badly placed stickers on the right, showing that it's got an RTX graphics card and a Ryzen 7 processor. And also on the left hand side we've got another little embossed G series logo. Now the touchpad, it feels okay, gestures work fine, but it does have a little bit of a loose sort of feeling, a little bit of a cheaper feeling to it. Obviously I'm sort of quite used to the premium Alienwares and Razer Blades and other high-end laptops. This does feel a little bit cheaper, but it functions perfectly, and in all honesty I'm mostly going to be using a mouse when I'm gaming anyway, and for just day-to-day work this is fine. For day-to-day navigation, web surfing, this is more than fine. The keyboard is your typical G series full layout keyboard. It's backlit, it has off and then dim and bright, that's it. You've got your usual media keys across the top, and above the actual keyboard, this here, that isn't the speakers, that is another intake grill bringing cold air into the laptop. Fortunately the speakers are down firing. So I just want to do a very quick audio test. Just running some YouTube royalty-free music. We're at 40% volume with these downfiring speakers. This is what they sound like. This is 60%. So there we go, very, very average. I wouldn't want to use them myself for listening to music, but maybe if you want to play a game and you haven't got a decent pair of headphones on you, they'll do the job. They're just not brilliant. And then moving up to the screen, I've chosen the base model screen with this laptop. That was all that was available in the UK. It's a 120Hz 1080p panel that's only 250 nits. Now it looks okay and feels reasonably responsive, and I've also measured it, and the brightness is actually came out about 280 nits, and that was perfectly fine. Even a sort of brightish room being a matte display, it's going to be totally usable. But the colour gamut isn't brilliant, and this panel does have PWM that some people are going to be sensitive to, will give certain people headaches. So if your region does allow it, I noticed that in the USA you can have it, I would definitely upgrade to the 165Hz 1080p panel. That's going to be a much better panel. And then moving up to the top, we've got the webcam and microphones. So this is what the webcam and the microphones look and sound like on the Dell G15 Ryzen laptop. So now we're going to flip it over and take a look inside. Opening the laptop is very straightforward. 8 screws, 4 of which are captive, and when you open these bottom 2 captive screws here, it pushes the base panel away from the chassis, allowing you to pop your nail underneath and just lift it away. As you can see, it is plastic. Obviously this is their budget line, the G15, but it does feel quite solid, no creaking, and it is held together well. Now looking inside, you can see the 2 downward firing speakers, an 86 watt-hour battery that is removable, it's just a few screws. At last, unlike the Alienware, you've got socketed RAM, you've got a socketed Wi-Fi card. Now strangely, I've got the 512GB SSD, and it's only a 30mm SSD, but you could put an 80mm in there. I'll show you a quick video later on how to do that. And also on the other side, you have another slot if you want to add a second SSD. You can see the motherboard is actually inverted, so although you can see the back of where the CPU and GPU would be, you cannot access the heatsink without taking the whole laptop apart. Lastly, there's your 2 fans venting at the back and the side with both of those fans. Now performance on this laptop is just where you'd expect it. The Ryzen CPU sits at about 3.6 GHz on all 8 cores, 16 threads, and that's under sustained Cinebench load, giving us great scores in both Cinebench and Geekbench. And the 3060, that can boost up to 125 watts according to the NVIDIA control panel, but in my testing so far, I frequently see it at about 115 watts, which still gives it solid 3060 RTX performance, and a good 25% better than the 3060 we had in the Asus G14. But also, like the Asus G14, unfortunately there's no muck switch in this model. That's a real shame, but this is the mid-range product, and that is something that you will have to live with if you choose this one. And in all fairness, most people won't even need that muck switch. It works perfectly well for most games I've tested out of the box. Talking of gaming, the gaming experience has been great so far. The fan noise has been pretty good with this laptop. Now the fans will spin up when you're heavily gaming or heavily utilising this laptop, but the fan noise isn't unpleasant, and it's certainly not whiny like some other slim gaming laptops. Okay, so playing a little bit of Warzone, just dropped in. I've had a couple of games already. Now the good news is the temperatures are obviously reasonably high for the CPU, about 91 degrees, but GPU is okay at 77. But this is the default fan profile, and the keyboard isn't hot, which is great news, and the fans aren't that loud. So I'm just going to put my decibel meter on. It's about 47 decibels on the default profile. And if I just try and zap the keyboard, you can see that early 30 degrees is more than comfortable enough to put your hands on. If I go near the top, you can see the heat is at the vents at the top area as you'd expect, but where you're using your hands, it's really comfortable. And this is just the standard default. If you press the F9 key, which would be the game key if you pay for the extra option. This puts it into the sort of high performance mode. Now you don't seem to get a great deal of extra performance in the system, but it does whack the fans right up, which hopefully you can hear now. And if I put the decibel meter back here, so you can see about 52 decibels on this mode. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, the temps will drop down into the 80s on the CPU, so it does make the CPU temperatures a lot lower, but me personally, I'd rather have the quiet fan noise. The game runs nice and smoothly with this 3060, which is a 125 watt card, but when you're utilizing the CPU and the GPU at the same time, it seems to run between about 100 to 115, I've found. But either way, we're getting good frames per second. This is at 1080p, pretty much max, well, high settings, I'd say. No RTX. Having played for a while now, I definitely prefer playing on the default profile. It's nice and quiet. Also, the 120Hz screen, although this isn't the best panel, it's 120Hz, it feels nice and fluid. So although I wouldn't choose this panel if I could help it, I'd rather have the 165Hz panel. If you do get this panel, I think you can certainly game on it quite nicely.
Enemy UAV overhead.
All right.
Performance on battery is also good. You won't get full performance whilst on battery as expected, but it doesn't throttle it back too hard, leading to decent benchmarks still on battery. And whilst we're on the subject of battery, I've been incredibly impressed with just how well this laptop has lasted on battery. With the screen at 50% brightness, streaming YouTube videos over Wi-Fi, this laptop managed 10 hours 40, which is absolutely incredible, and more you'd expect from an Ultrabook instead of a gaming laptop. These Ryzen chips are really efficient, and Dell has also been kind enough to include an 86 watt-hour battery in this laptop. So on to the conclusion. Now if you follow this channel, you'll probably know I review a lot of high-end gaming systems, particularly Alienware. So when I ordered this G15, I was expecting to be quite disappointed by it, but I've been left pleasantly surprised. Now to hit this price point, there has been some sacrifices. The base panel, although perfectly usable, has not got the most colour accurate screen, it's not particularly bright, and it has PWM, which is a real shame. So my recommendation would be to upgrade that screen if possible. The speakers are very average, and it is an all plastic build. But other than that, this is a solid gaming laptop with great performance on both the CPU and the GPU, meaning you'll be able to play any of your AAA game titles at 1080p with no problems whatsoever. So if you are looking for a solid mid-range gaming laptop, then I think this one is difficult to beat. My only recommendation that maybe pipping this one to the post would probably be the Legion 5, which also comes in at a great price, but also has a muck switch. So what did you think of this laptop? Is this something that you would consider? Please pop the comments down below, let me know what you think of it. I think it is a solid entry from Dell. I have the M15R5 in for review as well, and I will be sort of putting them head to head in the future just to see what your extra cash buys you for the Alienware over this mid-range G15. So let me know what your thoughts are. And also, please hit that like and subscribe and the notification bell. We have plenty of new laptops coming in, so plenty more content coming over the next few days and weeks. And lastly, thank you for watching.